Listen to this episode if you want to hear one decision that one of my clients made that changed everything in her business. Today, we are doing a real client story. Every time I do a case studies episode, you guys love it. You always ask for more, and it's just so inspiring to hear how somebody really did grow their business and the changes that they made. That's exactly what we are talking about today. We are talking about one of my past clients, current clients, that made one major change and kind of the ripple effect that came from that, and how this is something that is a great example of how you don't have to overcomplicate it, how there's a lot of myths out there of why this certain decision can be bad and why that they actually are not true. This is a client case study episode where we are diving into this client that made a major decision that truly had a ripple effect to everything else. It kickstarted her business, it cut her costs in half, it saved her sanity, and it had opportunities truly coming out of the woodwork. It's a great example of how sometimes you just need to start operating in alignment with your wants, make those big decisions, and then opportunities kind of start coming out of the woodwork when that all happens. People love to see these real life stories. And so today we are going to do that just to give a little bit of context. And then we're going to dive into the meat and bones of it. Is this client we started working together in January of 2024. She was making about $1,500 in sales in January of 2024. She joined PTP, which is my program to help you get to consistent online sales online. And she was right around that $1,500 in sales monthly. Sometimes it was like inconsistent, right? She would have a couple of extra, she would have a couple of less. We basically quickly built that into $5,000 monthly consistently by the summertime. She executed through the summer, continuously kind of grew through the end of the year. And then we started working together in January of 2025 to scale this baby to the moon. And oh, do I have some good, lovely updates. And this is going to be kind of just like an open book as to what it is that we did. We're going to talk about wholesaling today. We're going to talk about manufacturing. We're going to talk about handmade businesses. We're really going to dive into all of the nitty-gritty details. Before we do that, I just want to take 10 quick seconds to say hello. My name is Madison Page. I'm the host of the Small Business Growth Podcast, and I am a business growth specialist. I help you turn your small business into a brand so you can be that new big household name that you really want, and so you can reach all of your potential out there. I like to teach in a fun conversational type of way. I like to say it's kind of like sipping coffee with a biz bestie, where we are sitting across from each other at a cute little cafe and we are chatting business. That is what I want this episode and this podcast to feel like. If that sounds like something up your alley, make sure that you click the subscribe button. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday, and we have a lot of goodies out there. Plus, we have like 400 hours of strategy and mindset talks and guest interviews and all sorts of stuff out there for you to binge right now. When we scale, it's not just always about sales. When we scale, oftentimes we have to look at your profit, we have to look at the sustainability of it, we have to look at the scalability, and we have to really build a business that can withstand the sales that we have. So I have a lot of clients that come to me that are like, Maddie, I want to 5x my sales. I'm like, great. Can you hold 5x right now with your production and with your staff and with everything that you have? If you were to 5x your sales tomorrow, how would you feel about it? And they were like, oh no, gosh, no. That doesn't mean that we have a sales problem. That means that we have to actually build the behind the scenes of the business to be more sustainable. If you're new here, you know that I teach sustainable style of business. I teach a very freedom focused approach to business. We do not want to grow a business that is unsustainable. Not just for your own sanity, but also for the health and longevity of your business. There are plenty of people that scale too quick without actually looking at the behind the scenes, and then their business is unsustainable and they actually can't operate it, and then that becomes kind of the fatal flaw at the end of the day. So first, what we had to do with this client was we had to get proof of concept. I saw her product, she sells clothing, and we said we need to get proof of concept that this style of product is something that we actually really want, with your messaging, with your branding, with your product style, with the patterns that you have and all of that. Let's get proof of concept first. She was hand making her product inside of PTP. We streamlined her marketing, we streamlined her branding, we streamlined her sales, and we basically got her to kind of that $5,000 a month mark. To me, That's proof of concept. Once we get to that consistently, people are coming back. They clearly love it. People clearly like your product. They like what you're selling. Everything is converting. It was converting very highly. She built a really great community. And we knew that the desire and the need for her brand and her product were there. Then, once we built these consistent sales, we realized she didn't have a foundation built. We knew this from the start in order to scale because she was selling handmade clothing. I started to ask her, hey, how much of your time throughout the week is actually spent making your product? And she's like, I'm almost to the point where I hate getting a new order in because I know it's going to take me 3 to 4 hours to fulfill it because all of her stuff was made to order and custom. And so what we had to do is we actually had to reframe and resustain the overall kind of foundation of her brand. I know that a lot of people really struggle in the handmade world is that the founder is stuck actually working in the business so much when your goal has to be to work on the business. Your objective is to grow the business. And if you are spending 80% of the time in the business and then the leftover is spent on the business, no wonder it's taking a long time to grow. So once we built those consistent sales for her, and then we realized, we got to this point where we were like, all right, we're at kind of this breaking point. The brand she was selling was handmade clothing. And the major change that we had to make was that we had to switch into manufacturing her product, or at least outsourcing the production of her product. Now, before all of you out there that are either artists or other handmade business owners bounce out of this episode because you're like, nope, I hate manufacturing. I'm going to lose so much of my quality. It's going to lose the small business feel of my brand. I'm not going to be able to find a manufacturer. Please stick around, hear me out, and let's talk about this. I have had many clients make this transition, and there's a lot of myths out there around. The major transition she made is that we transitioned her handmade brand into a manufactured product. The quality may have even improved, but it absolutely did not change or get worse. The lead time and the actual feeling of her brand did not change. Her product stayed relatively the same. And instead, she had way more time on her plate to actually grow her business. She had less than half of the expenses to actually produce this product. Her cost went from like $20 to $25 because of the labor that was included in it, down to like $8 or $9, shipped, wrapped up, sent to her house and ready to go. She basically immediately doubled her profit. She reduced her time working in the business to allow for her more mental power and energy and time to actually work on the business to grow. And what came after this decision was what was actually so shocking. So we made the decision. She came in and we looked at her business. If you know anything about my scaling strategy, I have a 4-step scaling strategy. It's ASOE. It's analyze, sustain, optimize, expand. In the analysis, we said, all right, you've basically milked your community. Looking at your data, you have a really high return customer rate. Your return customer rate is almost too high. That tells me we need more visibility and more people, or at least to change your marketing around in order to start selling to more people. Her return customer rate was really, really high. And then, so we looked and we analyzed all these numbers. I said, okay, we're ready to really expand this. It's time to take this thing to the moon. However, if we look at the sustain side of things, if I were to double your sales tomorrow, can you keep up? Yes or no? We then looked at, can we outsource the cutting? Can we outsource the sewing? Can we outsource some of the production side of things? It was deemed a little tricky. Not everybody has the same level of sewing capacity, the labor. It was so expensive to produce it. When we were starting to go to wholesale opportunities, the profit margin was really low. And so we ultimately, when we looked at the sustain side, as I said, you know what? I think we should start looking at manufacturers. Immediately, the questions of, well, I don't really want to lose the quality. I don't want to lose the small business feel. I don't want to lose the customization that I can do right now. All of these myths that kind of pop up. You lose the value in your price point, that, this handmade element holds so much value to so many people. And a lot of people feel like it's a hard transition to make in a marketing sense. If you've over-marketed the fact that it's handmade, how do you do this? People are worried that they're not going to like it because it's no longer handmade, when none of that is actually reality. And I really want to emphasize that today because I've made this transition with many of my handmade clients. I'm not anti-handmade. I work with a lot of handmade businesses, probably about 50% of my businesses right now that I work with are handmade to some extent, but that doesn't have to be the case. Many of them, again, once we find this proof of concept and we know that we can afford this minimum order quantity, that's the other thing is people think it's going to be this huge, huge, huge minimum order quantity, depending on how many SKUs you have. There's a lot of work and there's a lot of malleability and a lot of versatility in the manufacturing process. Basically, we identified a couple of manufacturers. She got her samples. Of course, she liked the one that had the highest minimum order quantity. We negotiated the minimum order quantity, and she was able to get exactly what she wanted, 4 patterns, a couple of different SKUs, a couple of different things throughout, and they are now in that overall production process. Now, let's talk about what has changed in the behind the scenes for this business. Now, she can go in her office, and every time she makes an order, all she has to do is fold it up, put it in a box, make it cute, and go. She no longer has to take the 3 to 4 hours after every order that comes in to actually, make the product and put it out there. So what this allowed her to do is it allowed her to streamline so much. She now can also outsource the shipping if she wants to, or has somebody come in and ship all of her products, because it doesn't take her skill, it doesn't take her time in order to actually do that. What she can now do is focus on working on the business. Once she made this change, once she chose the 4 major styles and the prints she was getting manufactured, what this allowed for us to do is really choose the direction of where she wanted her business to go, because she was choosing her 4 core styles. When we did this, it kind of niched her down into this other kind of demographic of business. And what that allowed for us to do is get much more specific with how we were marketing, who we were marketing to, who we were pitching to. And it allowed to open up this vision of, no, Maddie, this is the brand that I think I really want to have. I really love this idea. And I think I have a lot of these connections. We were able to streamline this product suite and her vision moving forward, which actually provided so much clarity and so much specificity in her marketing and in her sales. With this increased clarity that we made in everything, it actually allowed her to find a lot more opportunities to scale. And this is really where a lot of things changed. We started immediately seeing these connections. We started reaching out to people, making connections, reaching out to the right people, now being able to say, hey, we are this niche clothing brand that is within this own little community. It would be perfect for your boutique, your resort, your hotel, all of these different pieces. We think we are a great fit. Here's the CAD designs. Here's the samples. This is what it's going to look like. This is kind of our lead time, and we can have it in your store. Basically, within a couple of days, honestly, the day she pressed order and she paid the invoice to get this product, she had about 8 different major retail opportunities coming to her. Why this is because we were able to streamline her messaging, streamline her marketing, streamline her sales, streamline her product suite. And now she is able to have widespread orders that she can fulfill within minutes because she has the product. So now she can get 100, 200, 500 pieces ordered from a boutique, and she is able to fill a box with the product and ship it out and make the sale. Whereas before, she really couldn't sustain a 500 unit order or a 100 unit order at a time, because it would take her weeks and weeks in order to fulfill those. So what this allowed is it allowed her to expand and really see the world in a bigger sense. It allowed for her to accept bigger collaborations and opportunities. And she now has major collaborations, retail opportunities, and huge placements for this new product in the pipeline. And she's talking to these people and she's able to accept these bigger collaborations and orders. And it doesn't have to be this little bespoke thing, because she actually has the behind the scenes simplified and streamlined in order to go about this. Now, again, I'm not anti-handmade. I have plenty of clients that have handmade products. I support and build many handmade businesses, but I do not always advocate that they are able to be scaled to a 6-figure, multi-6-figure business on all fronts. Some products are really, really hard to do that on. You either have to outsource the production of some kind, you either have to build a production team, or you have to get product manufactured. That is the big decision that a lot of these handmade businesses have to make, because a lot of people plateau their sales at $30,000 to $50,000 a year, because that is the capacity of time that you have on your plate as a handmade business owner, as a business owner in general. Hey, I'm jumping in here for 30 quick seconds for those of you listening and thinking, all right, but how do I actually apply this to my business? Every week here, I share strategies, case studies, growth mistakes to avoid, but your business growth is nuanced. So your business support has to be nuanced as well. That's why all of my support includes me inside of your business, your ideas, your launches, your content, perfecting what you're already building and uncovering your hidden opportunities to scale. This isn't a cookie cutter course. It's a high level personalized support system to help you optimize your brand, your strategy, and every single person your business touches. If you want my eyes and my brain on your branding, your sales, your marketing, and your overall growth plan, click the link in the show notes to apply. Let's see what we can build together. A big thing that I really want to clarify here is that there are so many myths behind manufacturing. And this wasn't just let's change this into manufacturing and then like that's all that she needed to do. Let's just transfer and that was all that she needed to do. What it did is it opened the door to her to work on the business, for her to find clarity inside of her business, and for her to actually be able to optimize her sales process and then expand. This client is set up and projected to have $10,000 to $15,000 months, which is nearly double what she was making pretty much as soon as she gets this shipment in. As soon as she placed the order, she was sending out wholesale catalogs to say, hey, this is what we sell wholesale. Let's get it in your store. I advised her to start sending out pre-orders. She can almost start thinking about how are we going to fulfill all of this inventory nearly immediately. So that myth that like this is going to be so much upfront money that I'm never going to be able to fulfill isn't always the case. It is what allowed her to be able to actually scale her sales, was making this really big change. This is something that I think is so important to talk about in business. Is we have a lot of resistance because of our beliefs. A lot of people believe that we can't outsource production because it's going to take the quality away. It's going to take the like quick nature away of your business. It's going to take the closeness away of your business. All of those things are false. There are so many brands out there that have that close-knit nature. They have the community. They have the quality that are actually manufactured products. And there is nothing wrong with hand making products. But if we really are looking to have like a household name, or you're looking to really have a multi-six-figure, seven-figure product-based brand, it's going to be very hard to do it in a handmade capacity. Again, it's not impossible. I'm sure there's people out there that have it. However, it's going to take you building out a team more than a lot of people are willing to do in a handmade capacity. So what I really want to say here that this client did is it wasn't just that she made this decision. This decision was committing to the longevity of her business. It was committing to the sustainability of her life as well as her business. And it was committing to saying, I am ready to expand. She basically put it out there. I am ready to expand. I am ready to have this business be the case. This business really go all in on it. Then in that process of choosing the patterns, choosing the products, we basically identified this niche that it allowed her to go into, which allowed her to have a more specific brand clarity where she could reach out to people and say, hey, I would be perfect for your store because we actually niche down into this specific market. It allowed her clarity in her vision, and then it allowed her the time to actually go out and grow the business, make these connections, make these collaborations. And frankly, she was on vacation sending me screenshots of people that were trying to buy her product on vacation or to get it into their stores that she met on vacation. It literally opened the door to so much basically like abundance into her world that she had opportunities just being flown at her. Now she's at the point right now where we are waiting for this product to come in. She's in the process of reaching out to wholesalers. She's in the process of making some of these sales happen so she can have this inventory basically accounted for as soon as it comes in so she can then make a bigger order. Some of the major takeaways here is this manufacturing shift. I was really a big push that I put into her world was because I saw that it actually was cheaper for her. So it brought her costs of goods from $25 down to $8 to $9. It saved her sanity. She was the bottleneck in her business because she was feeling like she didn't want to make more sales because of what it would do for her sanity. Sometimes, we can allow for our fear in making these big next steps, in transitioning into being manufactured, of being nervous that your audience isn't going to want to buy from you because it's no longer handmade, to actually hold us back from being able to scale to the capacity that we wanted to. As soon soon as she overcame those fears and she started to take this more strategic action to have the business she really wants to have, and we made a plan of how to really kind of plug all of her fears, she was able to really start to see that expansion coming. After being plateaued for whatever that might be, 6 months, 8 months, something like that, she was at that kind of $5,000 a month. She knew she could hit that, but how did she hit that next step? She needed to overcome the idea that more sales does not mean more time out of her plate. More sales does not mean that, oh my gosh, if I were to double her sales, it's going to allow where she's never able to spend time with her kids because she constantly has to be making product, and that it's going to add so much more time to her plate. She stopped selling to the full capacity because of her handmade product being the cap of her business, which we had to deconstruct that thought and reconstruct a new plan after that. I think that this is a really good example to show is because, not all wins are immediate sales wins in business. Not all growth is immediate sales. Now, this client, like I said, is set up to probably double or triple her sales monthly pretty quickly after she receives this inventory with the types of collaborations that she has, with the actual caliber of people that she has attracted already, and that of how she's going to really be able to work with them, and the different levels of retail locations that she will now be able to go into, and her D2C kind of collaborations that she has working. So yes, the sales monetary win is here, but if I were to have just scaled her sales, if she were to say, Maddie, I want to triple my sales, and I say, great, let's not look at that sustain. Let's just start optimizing and expanding, getting new people into her world, making more sales. She would have either A, stayed plateaued because her own brain would have stopped her from actually taking that action because she was stressed out about what would happen if she actually grew to that point. Or she would have burnt herself out by having too many sales where her business was not actually sustainable, her customers wouldn't have been as happy, and her profit margin was so much smaller. She was not making nearly the profit margin that she is going to make now. So what we were able to do is actually make her business more profitable, make it more sustainable, and actually then open the doors for the growth to happen. So I think a lot of times we look at kind of what we ideally want. We look at the end goal. Our end goal is sales. Our end goal is how can we grow our sales, but that's not always what everybody actually needs. First, we are still going to get her there, but what she needed first was actually streamlining the behind the scenes, streamlining the admin, streamlining her profitability, streamlining her processes and her production, which now allowed her to have these sales increase. We cannot increase sales at all times of the year because sometimes we actually have to build the foundation and the infrastructure to be able to withstand those sales. Or you as a founder have to step up and step into that type of being the person that can hold that style of business, that can really run that style of business. And that's exactly what we see here. And I think this is such a great example. And I want to show this to my handmade business owners. Get your proof of concept, get your proof of what everything looks like, and then we can talk about manufacturing. But the sooner you start manufacturing your product, and yes, there's a hierarchy of manufacturers. Yes, there's a hierarchy of quality out there. Yes, the ethics, all of that. We can find really solid manufacturers with a little bit of research and with a little bit of industry knowledge that we can really look at that. It just comes down to streamlining your time. As a business owner, your time is one of the most precious pieces, and we cannot be spending 80% of your time making product. We have to be spending that 80% of your time producing and working on the business. How can we actually fulfill some of those growth objectives, needle moving activities? Because that, as the founder, is your goal, and your purpose is how can I grow this business? How can more people see it? If you're putting your marketing and your sales and all of that on the back burner because you don't have the time to actually grow your business because you're too busy fulfilling all of the orders or, making all of the product, that's a problem that we really have to address. No matter what stage of business you're at, yes, we can need proof of concept, but we also do still need to be able to scale your business. And the sooner that you figure out how we can scale your business, the better. And this is something that we do with people inside of PTP, as well as my strategic advisory. I wanted to send this over to you so you can kind of see the stages of business. Whether you are just getting started and you're like, Maddie, I have no idea even how to find proof of concept. That is kind of what we do inside of PTP. Or if you're wanting to scale and you're kind of in this, you have your proof of concept, people love what you have. Now we have to kind of look at those next steps and kind of look at how we can actually sustain and scale from there. If you are looking and interested in getting support right now, we do have our bonus holiday sales event going on. You do get bonus support, extra kind of one-on-one touch points, as well as some bonuses and surprises inside. You can come on over to my Instagram at This Is Madison page and DM me support there, and we can talk about what the options are and what that support options and what all of the details are on the promotion that's going on, as well as you can apply in the show notes below, and I will reach out to you personally there as well. That is something that is going on inside of our world. We work with you at a very intimate touch point where we are working together, you and I, one-on-one, where we're in strategy sessions. I'm helping you create what these action plans are, analyzing your data, and being able to tell you, how do we grow your sales? How do we scale your sales? What on the marketing side do we need to do? What on the operations side do we need to do? I come into your business kind of as this strategic advisor to basically tell you, these are the strategic moves that you need to make in order to achieve the goals that you have. All of my programs and my support is very one-on-one. Why do I still do that at this point in my business? Is because business growth is nuanced, and you deserve your business support and your business advice to be nuanced as well, because information alone and general business advice alone is not all made for you. So if this style of support, if this level of wins, if this is something, or if you're looking for marketing or sales support, that is what we can do together. We do have that holiday promotion going on right now for just a couple of more days. This is the last week that it's going on. Make sure that you either fill out the application below or reach out to us over on Instagram. I hope this was helpful for you to kind of see a good, actual, real life example of how people really make this transition, what it really looks like, and how do we go from $1,500 in sales to $15,000 in sales in just about 18 months. Hopefully, with projected estimates, that is what we are going for. And I am so excited to see her really execute all of this and really see this name start to get out there to the capacity and the potential that it really deserves. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always. I will see you in the next episode. If you found today's episode helpful and are looking for more tangible ways to grow your business, make sure you are subscribed to the show. If you want to dive deeper into this topic more, click the link in the show notes and join our completely free podcast community, where we dive into every single podcast topic, as well as give some bonus support and free coaching calls. And finally, if you are interested in getting my eyes on your business to find your hidden opportunities to scale, apply to work with me one-on-one in the show notes or on our website. Remember, it's not enough to listen. Don't forget to implement too. I love ya. I'll see you in the next episode.